Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. This is your mindset motivation for our upcoming week. And today we're going to be reading from Neville Goddard's Feeling is the Secret. We're going to go over chapter 2, which is the feeling on sleep and what you bring into your subconscious each night as you drift off to sleep. Welcome to Unleashing Happiness. I am your host, Cecilia Hendricks, and today we're going to dive into reading chapter 2 from Neville Goddard's book, Feeling is the Secret. The chapter is titled Sleep, and it is talking about using the moments of sleep to impress your subconscious towards being the person that you want to be. It is a phenomenal book. It is rather short. There's only 4 chapters total, and I'm really excited for us to jump in today. Thank you for joining me today. I am really excited to read the chapter 2 of Neville Goddard's Feeling is the Secret. Feeling is the Secret is often the book that is recommended to anyone new to Neville Goddard as a good starter book. It is, in fact, the book that I first attempted to read. And one of the reasons that I say attempted to read is because when I first learned of Neville Goddard and attempted to read his books, they made zero sense to me. I actually could not make out what in the world he was trying to teach. And it took me a while to realize that what helped is if I allowed myself to read the chapter, even if it didn't make sense, listen to it in an audio form, and then read the chapter again most of the times. So I had found a website, feelingisthesecret.org, that had the books in that type of way. So I'll put the link down to that below. The website is absolutely phenomenal. It has all of his books, plus a bunch of other information. It's one of my favorite websites I've ever found. So I'll put the link to that below if you would also like to read the chapter and then listen to the chapter without any commentary. It's just strictly his book. Today, I will be reading the full chapter, but then also adding kind of my points of information, ways that maybe you can incorporate this into your life or just things to think about, and really attempt when you're listening to this to try to think of ways, how can I put this into work, into my life in a smart way, in a way that makes sense for me, in a way that just makes me feel better about the things that I'm doing and the person that I'm becoming. And we're going to jump right in. So this is from Neville Goddard's book, Feeling is the Secret, and chapter 2. If you missed chapter 1, you can go back. I actually have an episode, not the last one, but the one before it, that I read chapter 1 of Feeling is the Secret. Sleep, the life that occupies 1/3 of our stay on earth, is the natural door into the subconscious. So it is with sleep that we are now concerned. The conscious 2/3 of our life on earth is measured by the degree of tension we give sleep. Our understanding of and delight in what sleep has to bestow will cause us night after night to set out for it as though we were keeping an appointment with a lover. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men, and slumbering upon the bed, then he openeth the ear of men and sealeth their instruction. It is in sleep and in prayer, a state akin to sleep, that man enters the subconscious to make his impressions and receive his instructions. In these states, the conscious and subconscious are creatively joined. The male and female become one flesh. Sleep is the time when the male or conscious mind turns from the world of sense to seek its lover or subconscious self. If you notice here, Neville actually says that once we understand what sleep can do for us, that we would be so focused on making sure that we sought it night after night, as if we were keeping an appointment with a lover. What he's telling you here is that it is so important the way that you go into sleep, because that is what's going to impress your subconscious. They become one mind and meld together. Your conscious mind stops focusing so much on what's going on around it in the world. There's no really external events that you need to take into sleep with you, unless that's the stuff that you're thinking about as you enter into sleep, which we'll talk about a little bit more later. And I also want to point out that he says it is in sleep and in prayer, a state akin to sleep, that man enters the subconscious. So when you're thinking about a state akin to sleep, he's talking about that moment of meditation where you are sleepy, but you're actually awake, like in meditation. So I've always read, and I think this gets confused in some areas and different people have different thoughts and ideas, that you have sleep, but then also state akin to sleep is a meditation form. And right back to the chapter. The subconscious has no desire to change the conscious waking state, but loves it as it is and faithfully reproduces its likeness in the outer world of form. The conditions and events of your life are children formed from the molds of your subconscious impressions in sleep. They are made in the image and likeness of your innermost feeling that may reveal yourself to you. As in heaven, so on earth. And as in the subconscious, so on earth. Whatever you have in consciousness as you go to sleep is the measure of your expression in the waking 2/3 of your life on earth. It was when I came back to this chapter, actually, that I had an aha moment of starting to focus on how do I want to feel when I go to sleep. Because what Neville is saying here is that whatever you take in to sleep with you, that is what's going to start expressing itself in your outer world. So you being able to really drive your day with a focus of how do I want to feel when I go to bed? Do I want to feel loved? Do I want to feel successful? Do I want to feel relaxed? Do I want to feel happy? And you don't have to pick one emotion and try to force feel that. You can just gently ask yourself throughout the day, how do I want to feel when I go to bed? And is what I'm doing currently aligned with how I want to feel? But this was actually the chapter that I had come back to when this epiphany hit me, that I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not really focusing enough on how I want to feel when I go to bed during my waking hours. And when I can continue to check in with myself and make sure that I'm aligned to this person and this feeling that I want to have when I go to bed, then I am much more likely to bring that feeling with me into sleep. I'm much more likely to go to bed feeling good about the day and feeling good about the things that I've done and the way that my day has gone and the person that I'm being and where my focus and attention is. And so that's why I do really encourage you to start asking yourself the question, how do I want to feel when I go to bed? And is what I'm doing now aligned with how I want to feel? If you find yourself watching multiple YouTube videos looking for some new technique, or listening to new podcasts looking for some new technique, or trying to seek out somebody to tell you what exactly to do, that is not really aligned, I would imagine, with the way that you want to feel when you go to bed at night. So then you're constantly in conflict with yourself. You're constantly creating this frustrating cycle of continuing the same behavior, because the feelings that you're bringing into sleep with you are more likely of desperation and not getting a life that you want, not enjoying your life, being really frustrated, being upset with the way things are going. And so the more that you can actually step back and instead say, how can I start to change my waking hours so that I just feel better? It's not about trying to force some external action. It's just, how can I take care of myself so that I have a better day, so that I have a better way into sleep, that I feel better when I go to bed. All right, right back to the chapter. Nothing stops you from realizing your objective save your failure to feel that you already are that which you wish to be, or that you already are in possession of the thing sought. Your subconscious gives form to your desires only when you feel your wish fulfilled. And I'm going to stop right here after just one paragraph, but I want to read it again. Nothing stops you from realizing your objective save your failure to feel that you are already that which you wish to be, or that you already are in possession of the thing sought. Your subconscious gives form to your desires only when you feel your wish fulfilled. And this goes right back to what we've been talking about. You need to feel that you are what your wish is. You need to feel as if you're the person who has this thing. You need to change your mindset and focus on this outcome that you have. That is really the key here. And I wanted to also add that I've started a YouTube series talking about creating a life that you want. It is actually a complete masterclass series that I'll be putting out. It's got workbooks that go along with it. It's absolutely free. I'll put the link to the YouTube video down below. You don't need the workbook, but if you want the workbook, I'll put the link down to that below as well. But I'll put the link to the first video, and that's exactly what we are working on in this masterclass, is talking about how to choose your objective and then how to start feeling that objective and not oppose it during your day. And that first sentence is actually one of Neville's probably most famous ones, that nothing stops you from realizing your objective, save your failure to feel that you are already that which you wish to be. And so when we're talking about not opposing it during the morning, because what I find happens a lot with people is that they're like, well, before I go to bed every single night, I do 50 affirmations that I have this thing in my life. And then I go to sleep, but then I wake up in the morning and I automatically fall into the same habits and routines that told me every single day I didn't have this thing or I wasn't this person. And so when you wake up and you fall into those same habits, you're just shifting yourself right back into your old state. You're going right back into your old clothes. You're going right back into your old wine casings. If you're a follower of Neville, those will make a little bit more sense. But Neville talks about how you can't take, the new from the old. And Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about this as well, that you have to change the habit of being yourself in order to see your external world reflect that which you wish to see. And this is exactly what Neville is talking about in this book. You have to figure out the ways to become the person that you want to be, to feel as if you are that person. That doesn't mean that naturally during the day, if you are, seeking to work a certain job, that you're just randomly showing up at that building and trying to act like you work there. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about feeling these feelings internally and allowing your subconscious mind to take you to that result, because that's what would happen. And actually, I'd put that a little bit differently, to bring the result to you. So when we are in our present moment, which is the only moment that we have, everything that's happening is actually coming to us. We're not going to anything. We are staying within our present moment and everything else is coming to us. And you can see it that way. Once you feel that and you feel it internally, it all just starts to come to you in a very natural way and in amazing ways that you would never think of. Right back to feeling is the secret. The unconsciousness of sleep is the normal state of the subconscious. Because all things come from within yourself and your conception of yourself determines that which comes, you should always feel the wish fulfilled before you drop off to sleep. You never draw out of the deep of yourself that which you want. You always draw that which you are. And you are that which you feel yourself to be, as well as that which you feel as true of others. Now, coming to this, I want to talk a little bit. So this is kind of talking about you reap what you sow. What you put out, you're able to get back. And what you believe true of others, you will also see reflected in your life. And sometimes you can see it reflected as it happening to you in a way because you have been putting out that kind of energy. And I don't necessarily know how this works. I'm not going to act as if I do. But I do know that the conceptions that you hold of yourself, the things that you believe are true, do reflect in your life. But so do the things that you believe are true of others, which means that you could have a spouse that cheats, or you could have a best friend who lies and stabs you in the back. And it's not because you feel like you're unworthy necessarily. That could be part of it, but you can actually think very highly of yourself and still have these things happen. One of the beliefs that I know that I hold is that as you grow and expand, that friendships tend to fall off, and that there's people who are not really growing and expanding at the same time. And so those friendships just kind of tend to drift apart a little bit. Now, because I believe that that's something that could be true of others, that others are not growing and expanding, and so those friendships drift apart, that reflects in my life. Because I believe that there's people at work who behave catty and gossip, even though that's not a way that I want to behave, that can definitely still be reflected in my life. And I also just still believe that there are some beliefs and feelings that I'm not going to change, and I truly don't even have a desire to. It's kind of like getting sick. I feel like as a human, of course, we're going to get sick. There's germs in the world, and that's going to happen every now and then. Now, I also believe that I have a really great immune system, and I do not really get sick all that often. But right around Christmas of last year and New Year's, I got sick repeatedly. And I was like, what in the world am I holding on to that is continuing to make me so sick, like over and over and over? And luckily, I was able to release that, and I haven't been sick since. But I recognize that that is something that I believe is true, is that we as humans are going to get sick, and that friendships drift apart and you grow apart, and that there's people who don't do nice things. And it's not my fault that these people do those things. It's not my fault that I have these beliefs. They're ones that are so firmly embedded into me as a human that they just are. And I'm not going to hold the guilt from what someone else does, even if it is something that I thought about or I feel like I brought around. I don't need to hold on to that. I need to just focus on myself, the way that I'm feeling, and make sure that I'm coming to be the person that I want to be, that I'm reflecting the values that I want to hold. And I think that's an important key. So don't try to accept things onto yourself or feel guilty for things and feel like this is my fault. I did this. It's because of my focus. And I'm bringing this up because you see this a lot in this community where folks are like, well, if everything is coming from my internal states, then I'm responsible for all this stuff. And you're not. Like, this whole process somehow comes together and works in a way that we're just not able to comprehend. And that's all right. You can still focus on bettering yourself and making your world wonderful. And if that includes community work or doing volunteering, I think that's fantastic. I love to do that kind of stuff. One of my values is definitely giving back and making sure that you are giving to the community the things that you want to see, so that you are volunteering and doing community work. That is something that I hold as a value. And so once you find your values, you can find the ways to present those out into the world, but that doesn't make you responsible for kind of the bad things that happen either to you or to others. And we'll go back into the chapter. To be realized then, the wish must be resolved into the feeling of being or having or witnessing the state sought. This is accomplished by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. The feeling which comes in response to the question, how would I feel were my wish realized, is the feeling that should monopolize and immobilize your attention as you relax into sleep. You must be in the consciousness of being or having that which you want to be or have before you drop off to sleep. Once asleep, man has no freedom of choice. His entire slumber is dominated by his last waking concept of self. This right here is why it's so important for you to pay attention to how you want to feel when you go to bed. And then before you go to bed, make sure that you're entering into that feeling. What are the feelings that you want to have? What would be the feeling had you had whatever desired outcome it is that you're seeking? And bring that into sleep with you. Right back to Neville. It follows, therefore, that he should always assume the feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction before he retires in sleep. Come before me with singing and thanksgiving. Enter into his gates with thanksgiving and into his courts with praise. Your mood prior to sleep defines your state of consciousness as you enter into the presence of your everlasting lover, the subconscious. She sees you exactly as you feel yourself to be. As you prepare for sleep, you assume and maintain the consciousness of success by feeling, I am successful. You must be successful. Lie flat on your back with your head on level with your body. Feel as you were in possession of your wish and quietly relax into unconsciousness. He that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Nevertheless, he giveth his beloved sleep. The subconscious never sleeps. Sleep is the door through which the conscious waking mind passes to be creatively joined to the subconscious. Sleep conceals the creative act while the objective world reveals it. In sleep, man must impress the subconscious with his conception of self. What more beautiful description of this romance of the conscious and subconscious is there than told in the Song of Solomon? By night on my bed I sought him whom my soul loveth. I found him whom my soul loveth. I held him and I not let him go, until I had brought him into my mother's home and into the chamber of her that conceived me. Preparing to sleep, you feel yourself into the state of the answered wish, and then you relax into unconsciousness. Your realized wish is he whom you seek. By night, on your bed, you seek the feeling of the wish that you may take it with you into the chamber of her that conceived you, into sleep or the subconscious which gave you form, that this wish also may be given expression. This is the way to discover and conduct your wishes into the subconscious. Feel yourself in the state of the realized wish and quietly drop off to sleep. Night after night, you should assume the feeling of being, having, and witnessing that which you seek to be, possess, and see manifested. Never go to sleep feeling discouraged or dissatisfied. Never sleep in the consciousness of failure. Your subconscious, whose natural state is sleep, sees you as you believe yourself to be, and whether it be good, bad, or indifferent, the subconscious will faithfully embody your belief. As you feel, so do you impress her, and she, the perfect lover, gives form to these impressions and outpictures them as the children of her beloved. Thou art all fair, my love, there is no spot in thee, is the attitude of the mind to adopt before drifting off to sleep. So the more that you are able to align to this feeling that you have before you go to sleep, this feeling that you want to be this person or to have this thing, you're bringing it into sleep with you. Whatever those feelings are before you go to bed, those are the things that you're continuing to focus on in your life in your sleep. So it's really important that before you go to bed that you feel the way that you want to feel. And I think that's why a lot of folks find that having an evening routine works really well for them. Having something they can focus on and pay attention to tends to really work for them, because then they take that into sleep with them. When you do things for yourself and that are aligned to the feeling that you want to have before you go to bed, right before sleep or throughout the rest of your day, you're more likely to be able to generate those feelings before you go to sleep. And I mean actually generate them. If you are thinking to yourself over and over and over that you are something, but your actual feeling is that it's never going to get here, I'm not worthy of this, I don't see how this could ever happen, the feelings that you're actually taking into sleep are the ones of frustration and dwelling in that you can never have something. It's the feeling that you're going to constantly be in this cycle. So you really have to be honest with yourself about what are the feelings that you're taking into sleep. Go right back to the chapter. Disregard appearances and feel that things are you wish them to be. For he calleth things that are not seen as though they were, and the unseen becomes seen. To assume the feeling of satisfaction is to call conditions into being which mirror satisfaction. Signs follow, they do not precede. Proof that you are will follow the consciousness that you are. It will not precede it. You are an internal dreamer dreaming non-internal dreams. Your dreams take form as you assume the feeling of their reality. Do not limit yourself to the past. Knowing that nothing is impossible to consciousness, begin to imagine states beyond the experiences of the past. Whatever the mind of man can imagine, man can realize. All objective, visible states were first subjective, invisible states. And you called them into visible by assuming the feeling of their reality. The creative process is first imagining and then believing the state imagined. Always imagine and expect the best. The world cannot change until you change your conception of it. As within, so without. Nations, as well as people, are only what you believe them to be. No matter what the problem is, no matter where it is, no matter whom it concerns, you have no one to change but yourself. And you either have neither opponent nor helper in bringing about the change within yourself. You have nothing to do but convince yourself of the truth of that which you desire to see manifested. As soon as you succeed in convincing yourself of the reality of the state sought, results follow to confirm your fixed belief. You never suggest to another the state which you desire to see him express. Instead, you convince yourself that he is already that which you desire him to be. Realization of your wish is accomplished by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You cannot fail unless you fail to convince yourself of the reality of your wish. A change of belief is confirmed by a change of expression. This is another important part. So one, he's saying, don't go out and try to convince somebody that they need to be something. You're not externally doing these things to try to bring something about for yourself. You're working internally on your feelings, your concept of yourself, and your concept of others. And that you can actually use what's going on around you and your emotional reactions as a key insight to how you actually feel and what you're focusing on. It can be a little bit of a hard truth to accept, but the fact of the matter is that if you start to be honest with yourself about how you feel, you can see it playing out in your world. And that includes the way that you're seeing others. If you have a friend who needs employment or is really struggling, can you drift off into into sleep or into prayer and focus on them being their ideal version of themselves. You're not trying to convince them of it. You're not trying to force them to do anything different. But the greatest prayer that you can give to somebody, the greatest gift that you can give for them is to see them as their ideal self with this like amazing job or this amazing life that they're leading, instead of seeing them in a cycle of despair. Every night as you drop off to sleep, feel satisfied and spotless. For your subjective lover always forms the objective world in the image and likeness of your conception of it, the conception defined by your feeling. The waking 2/3 of your life on earth ever corroborate and bears witness to your subconscious impressions. The actions and events of the day are effects. They are not causes. Free will is only freedom of choice. And I'm going to call this out because free will is talked about a lot. So essentially, when you are following Neville, and there's other teachers who say this as well, that your really only free will is to choose the state that you dwell in, and that everything else comes whether you're aware of it or not. And your choices are determined by the state that you're in. And it would be as if I feel good about myself and my state is of my healthiest self, and that I really take care of my body and I feel good when I do it, I'm going to naturally take actions that are aligned to that. That's going to be naturally just the way that I behave. And you can see that in other ways. If you are in a state of feeling desperate and sad over your love life, there's actions that you're going to take that align to that. You're going to do things and behave in a way and feel certain things that are aligned with your state. And so what Neville has always said is that choosing your state is the only free will that you have. The chapter goes on, choose ye this day whom ye shall serve. Is your freedom to choose the kind of mood you assume, but the expression of the mood is the secret of the subconscious. The subconscious receives impressions only through the feelings of man, and in a way known only to itself, gives these impressions form and expression. The actions of man are determined by his subconscious impressions. His illusion of free will, his belief in freedom of action, is but ignorance of the causes which make him act. He thinks himself free because he has forgotten the link between himself and the event. Man awake is under compulsion to express his subconscious impressions. If in the past he unwisely impressed himself, then let him begin to change his thought and feeling, for only as he does so will he change his world. Do not waste one moment in regret, for to think feelingly of the mistakes of the past is to reinfect yourself. Let the dead bury the dead. Turn from your appearances and assume the feeling that would be yours, were you already the one you wish to be. Feeling a state produces a state. The part you play on the world stage is determined by your conception of yourself. By feeling your wish fulfilled and quietly relaxing into sleep, you cast yourself in a star role to be played on earth tomorrow, and while asleep you are rehearsed and instructed on your part. The acceptance of the end automatically wills the means of realization. Make no mistake about this. If, as you prepare for sleep, you do not consciously feel yourself into the state of the answered wish, then you will take with you into the chamber of her who conceived you the sum total of the reactions and feelings of the waking day. And while asleep, you will be instructed in the manner in which they will be expressed tomorrow. You will rise believing that you are a free agent, not realizing that every action and event of the day is predetermined by your concept of self as you fell asleep. Your only freedom, then, is in your freedom of reaction. You are free to choose how you feel and react to the day's drama, but the drama, the actions, events, and circumstances of the day have already been determined. And this is a huge reason why I say to make sure that you are checking in with yourself during the day. How do I want to feel when I go to sleep? Is my current action aligned with that? Because the more that you can catch yourself, it's essentially like on the fly revision, which I think is the best way to use that type of technique and focus, is to say, is this how I want to feel? How would I behave if I was aligned to the way I want to feel when I go to bed? And how can I adjust not only myself, but my feelings of what I just did to just be aligned with that? You don't need to worry about it. You don't need to dwell over it. You don't need to put yourself down or be upset. It's just accepting and moving on and saying, okay, I'm going to focus on the way I want to feel when I go to bed. And this is the feeling that I want to take into sleep with me, is this feeling of success or this feeling of love or this feeling of being amazing and desired and whatever else it is that you're seeking. the more you put your focus on how you want to feel when you go to bed at night, the more that your state is actually reflective of who you want to be and the life that you want to lead. And right back to the end of his chapter, these are actually the last few paragraphs. Unless you consciously and purposely define the attitude of mind with which you go to sleep, you unconsciously go to sleep in the composite attitude of mind made up of all feelings and reactions of the day. Every reaction makes a subconscious impression, and unless counteracted by an opposite and more dominant feeling, is the cause of future action. Now, I'm just going to pause here real quick. I know I just said I was going to finish reading out the chapter, but this is such a huge thing to pay attention to. You can counteract anything. You can counteract a good state, which is what I was talking about earlier in the episode, where you are focusing on something and you feel that, but then you wake up and you completely oppose it throughout the entire day. And then you go to sleep and reshift, and then you wake up and you oppose it throughout the entire shift of your day. Or you can do it the other way. You have a feeling and a reaction that is not aligned with what you want to do. So you catch yourself and you realign, you get back on the horse and you continue on. And so that's why it's very important to create habits of checking in with yourself, to create habits of asking questions, and to create habits of knowing what it is that you want, having a defined desired outcome, and learning how to replace your attention in the right places. And now I promise I'm going to read the rest of the paragraphs here. Ideas enveloped in feeling are creative actions. Use your divine right wisely. Through your ability to think and feel, you have domination over all creation. While you are awake, you are a gardener selecting seed for your garden. Your conception of yourself as you fall asleep is the seed you drop into the ground of the subconscious. Dropping off to sleep, feeling satisfied and happy, compels conditions and events to appear in your world which confirm these attitudes of mind. Sleep is the door into heaven. What you take in as a feeling, you bring out as a condition, action, or object in space. So sleep in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And we're just going to end the episode for the week here. I hope that you really spend some time thinking about this today and focusing on how you want to feel when you go to sleep. What do you want to take with you into sleep? And that's such a beautiful way of seeing this. What do I want to bring with me into sleep? How do I want to feel? And what do I want to see externalized? And the more that you focus on that feeling as you drift out to sleep and check in with yourself throughout the day, how do I want to feel when I go to bed? Am I aligned to that feeling right now, or am I in direct opposition of it? And the more that you do this, the more that you'll start to see things just piece together. It's really quite amazing. So I hope that you enjoyed this. I hope that you're enjoying Neville Goddard's Feeling is the Secret. If you have any questions, definitely reach out and let me know. Email is unleashinghappiness@ceciliahendricks.com, or you can always leave a comment if you are listening on YouTube. I hope you have a beautiful week and happy Monday. Thank you so much again for joining me today. If you enjoyed this episode, definitely please share it out with your network. That is truly one of the best compliments that you can give me. And if you have a moment, if you could please rate and review the episode, that definitely helps me get out to more people.